Hi, my name's Jim Snetzinger, and I'm the board chair for the Forest Enhancement Society of British Columbia. Over the past 5 years, the Society has funded over 269 projects across the province of British Columbia. We're very pleased to share this video with you today to highlight some of the projects that have been funded by the government in your forests.
Hi, I'm Steve Kazuki with the Forest Enhancement Society of BC. If you're like most people, you're probably tremendously concerned about taking action on climate change. The good news is, there is a lot that we can do, and forestry is probably one of the biggest ways we can make a difference in taking action on climate change. First, let's learn about greenhouse gases and how they contribute to climate change.
Climate change continues to be on everyone's mind as it seems to increasingly affect our daily lives. But what's the connection between climate change and BC's forests?
There are several greenhouse gases that warm the climate, including carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Plants and animals and people are mostly carbon. When organic matter decays or burns, the carbon is released into the air, which then causes greenhouse warming.
Every year, vast amounts of carbon flow between the atmosphere and the biosphere, including carbon that is locked up in forest soils, trees, and wood products. Promoting forest management practices that increase carbon uptake or reduce carbon emissions can help reduce future warming. This can be our contribution while other parts of society also transition to a low-carbon economy. While we can't completely control Mother Nature, there's a lot we can do to tweak those carbon flows in the favor of society. BC has a strong record of planting trees after natural disturbances, and new initiatives have shifted the existing profile of those reforestation strategies to consider more climate-friendly practices. As forest growth rates are limited by nutrient supply, fertilizing can increase carbon uptake in the short term and alleviate pressures on future fiber supply. We also need to think about how we manage forest waste. Traditionally unusable parts of the trees, the tops and branches, are piled up and burned under controlled conditions so that they don't pose a fire hazard later. We need to work together to avoid or utilize that wood waste so that it doesn't just go up in smoke.
The open burning of wood causes the sudden release of greenhouse gases that have accumulated for years. The emissions profile of open burning of wood contains not only carbon dioxide, but also potent greenhouse gases. Tree planting is one of the ways forestry contributes to reducing those potent greenhouse gases.
Forests are extremely important storage places for carbon. They, through photosynthesis, draw carbon out of the atmosphere and turn it into cellulose and store it in the roots, store it in the stem of the tree, in the branches and the crown. Zanzibar Holdings is a tree planting company, and we are working under Forest Enhancement Society funding to reforest the Hansfield fire. We've had pretty good results on the planting. It's not always easy. This is probably one of the hardest places in British Columbia to reforest. The burns damage the soils quite a bit, so the trees face a lot of challenges, but so far things are looking quite good. These trees are going to develop into forests much sooner than if we'd left these areas to reforest naturally.
Another way to mitigate climate change through nature-based forestry solutions is fertilization. Fertilizing our forests helps to accelerate the growth of the trees. The faster the trees grow, the more carbon they absorb. Think of trees like carbon-sucking machines.
My name is Ken Day. I am consulting to the Williams Lake First Nation to help them carry out program funding supplied by Forest Enhancement Society of British Columbia. In young forests, there's quite deep shade As the trees close canopy, the understory plants, the culturally important plants, recede into an unproductive state. The community forest has carried out some what we call pre-commercial thinning to reduce the density of the overstory. That gives the opportunity for the plants that were still in place to express themselves better because they have released growing space. So this is important because we need to redevelop the cultural resources that have been diminished by the silvicultural history.
FESBC it's allowing us to lead in many forestry initiatives. Fertilizing stands like this with the intent of increasing culturally important plants. That is unheard of.
This program here that we were involved in allows First Nations to take the first steps back into land management. This community forest is providing opportunities for the Williams Lake First Nation to help environmental stewardship. We're bringing the forest back, creates employment, revenue.
Taking action on climate change in every way we can, in my mind, is important. And if we can use silvicultural practices to capture more carbon in the forest by growing longer needles, larger diameter trees, more roots, that will certainly improve the climate change outcomes we face.
Historically, there's always been wood waste from the harvesting operations to get logs to the sawmill. Every fall, there would be crews that would go out and burn the piles.
We can also avoid the open burning of wood waste. Instead, we prefer to use that wood.
We've been utilizing that fiber by either bringing it in as biomass logs or taking a horizontal grinder and trucks out to the slash piles, grinding them and creating hog fuel. That hog fuel is then burnt inside Domtar's generator, creating electricity for Domtar. Any excess energy gets sold back into the grid. There was some creative thinking that had to go along by industry, government, and ourselves and loggers to be able to utilize that fiber. Together, I think we're doing a better job every day because of it.
Many times, this wood would never move because it was uneconomical, or somebody would have to change their practices. And what FESBC has done a really good job with our proponents is provide them that economic assistance so they are willing to experiment and try different practices. And we're seeing significant changes across the province in regards to behavior of what we call our traditional logging industry. FESBC has funded 24 projects to utilize almost 80,000 truckloads of fiber that would normally be burnt in the bush.
CCR is an Indigenous company operating on traditional territory west of Williams Lake. They are motivated by a desire to protect their communities from wildfire, to take care of the land, and to participate in the forest bioeconomy. They have become one of FES's largest recipients, with projects valued at $29 million.
CCR is a collaborative venture between two First Nations, the Sidle-Dell First Nation and the Talinco government. The programs that they're developing are leading edge, and they're actually transforming the forest industry. They're taking us from a traditional wood production facility to a bioeconomy operation.
The people that arrived here in British Columbia, when they first looked at the forest, I tell people the forest was managed so well it looked untouched. Our people relied on that, and we want to get back to that.
All these things that we've been doing, looking after the forests, even the rivers, way back in history, that is how we live. We lived off the land. We need to keep it clean, just like you would keep your freezer clean at home.
A lot of the work is carried out by our own band members and our own companies within our respective communities in Saddledale First Nation and Glentinco government.
I like to see CCR just keep going, because it's good for everybody.
There are two main approaches to dealing with climate change. The first approach is adapting. We can adapt to a hotter climate. We can adapt to increased flooding and more extreme weather. However, the second approach is preventing climate change. We can take action to reduce climate change. To do that, we need to improve the management of greenhouse gases. If we want to achieve the global goal of becoming carbon neutral, forests must be part of the equation. Forests are a critical part of the climate change solution, and the hard-working women and men in British Columbia's forest sector are climate change heroes.